So the first element, the first quadrant, is self-awareness. That means how much are we in tune with our own emotions and feelings? And can we really identify them? So when a child is angry, for example, instead of just hitting or kicking or screaming, they could identify and say, I am angry. Also, helping your child do that will really increase their emotional intelligence. The second quadrant is self-control or management of our own emotions. And that is very important for emotional intelligence. That is not just being able to identify, but actually correct our emotions. In the heat of a moment, that's the most difficult, but really prevention and cure. So it's learning how to correct and control our emotions. The third quadrant is called empathy. Empathy is understanding how other people feel and identifying and being able to name that and observe and notice what's going on with other people's feelings. And the fourth quadrant is a relationship building, the social skills. So being able to build strong relationships, that is a massive quadrant for raising and enhancing emotional intelligence. So all of that comprises EQ. Now, really help us manage our emotions, how to empathize with people, especially in the world where we see a lot of stress. And that is not changing. Actually, a stress level will only rise. We know from the research that the nuclear family, as we knew it, is not longer a very relaxed one. You know, look at, just taking my own example, I come from Russia, my husband comes from Greece, we give birth to our children in Switzerland, now we live in the UK, and these are all different countries, cultures, and also backgrounds, and a lot of stress, a lot of demands from different parts of our life, especially when there's no support. It used to be that, you know, a family, a child would be part of a bigger community where grandparents would be participating, where, you know, aunties and uncles were part of that. Now, a nuclear family travels a lot, lives in a city where it's surrounded by different people who are not necessarily relating to this family. And, you know, grandparents may not be there. Our grandparents are in different parts of the world and they're helping us maybe on holidays only. So how do we create conditions where we can be stress resilient, where we can manage stress levels in a way that would help our children to also create their foundation for being emotionally intelligent? So stress is very much linked to neurology, and I want to share a few pieces of information about that. Now, if there is a stress that triggers the reptilian brain, the back of our head, that sends a signal, let's say a dangerous signal, something is wrong, to amygdala. It's like an almond-shaped gland in the middle of your brain. And amygdala is very much a limbic system that is responsible for flight or fight response. So if we just react, yes, if we just go into instincts, we will be like animals, reacting and fighting and freezing or sort of running away. And that's what a child does. Now, the role of a parent is to really help them learn certain tools and strategies to train their prefrontal cortex, that is an area of the prefrontal lobe, which helps to regulate emotions and calm down dangerous signals that comes from the reptilian brain that perceive, you know, the dangerous external stimuli. Now, we don't have lines anymore. We don't really have those dangerous moments apart from, let's say, running cars on the street. That's a good stimulus to actually stop and run away or do something about it. But most of our stimuli come from a social environment, from interactions, from relationships. And to learn these skills, how to really teach our prefrontal cortex to identify certain stimuli, where they come from, and not take it personally, so not feel not to identify with those and not take them personally, is very, very important, because child stress is very much linked to those stimuli that they perceive as dangerous. And as a parent, you play a role of that prefrontal cortex for your child when they're little. They don't have that area of the brain as developed as you. So your role is to, first of all, calm down and relax yourself and learn certain strategies that help you control your emotions. So the best thing that you can do for your child is learn how to be emotionally intelligent yourself. So moving on, in terms of crying, I just wanted to mention something very important. In our culture, especially for boys, I see a lot of parents mentioning to boys, well, you shouldn't cry, boys don't cry, or, I mean, these are really horrible phrases, because this is the time when a child has something inside them. It may come from fear and unreleased anger because they've been punished, for example, for anger, or they're afraid of being punished by you. So they go straight into sadness and crying is a beautiful process because it releases endorphins that are sort of natural drugs that medicate us to feel good. So we turn from sadness into joy, and oxytocin floods in the blood. And that is a process that should be allowed for children. Let them cry when they want to. Welcome that and say, look, it's okay to cry. If you want to cry, take your time, and I'll be back when you finish. And don't react to that emotionally yourself or negatively. That's the best you can do is really create an outlet for your children to cry. Now, what are your children's needs? Because when they cry, when they are angry, when they're scared, we need to understand why, right? And understand why, we need to really look into the child's needs. Now, they're not something difficult to understand. There are fundamental 6 needs that come from the psychology of human needs. So the first one is security, stability, and safety. So is your child safe? Does he or she feel safe with you at home, at school, with friends, etc.? So these are fundamental, basic child's need. The second one is variety. Is your child stimulated enough? Are they bored? Or are they happy with different stimuli? Now, in the era of gadgets and technology, I think, and I know, and it comes from research, but I think that's very important for us as parents to really help our children regulate the time that they spend in front of gadgets, because they influence the brain development and they get bored very quickly because the stimuli have been so fast moving. The cartoons have increased in speed and changing the photo frame, the picture frame, just to catch up with sort of the temptation to get interested. Because we look at you now, I mean, how multitasking are you? And this multitasking also creates stress. So all this additional stimuli when we're doing things, when we're listening and typing and reading and cooking, all together, that's additional stress. And when you don't feel calm and relaxed and centered, your children will pick it up. So they will also react to that, okay? So variety is very much linked to educational variety, not entertainment variety. And educational variety is about engaging with your children in a different way. And that's what they really want. They don't want those cartoons. Also, they say they want them because that's a very nice kind of delicious dessert. It's like eating ice cream all day long, but it's not really healthy, because when you eat ice cream, it's a lot of sugar, and then they get sort of crazy and they want more, and they start going into tantrums and outbursts, etc. So you need to really take that control as a parent and help them regulate themselves. So number 1, security needs. Second one, variety need. The third need is significance. How much do you respect them as a human being, especially if they're 7 and above? Teenagers, paramount important. They want to be respected by you as a human being, as a young adult. So seeing that and recognizing that is very important. The fourth one is love and connection. And this is, as well as the first one, there are 2 prime ones for the babies, for the 1-year-olds until they're toddlers, and then they get more and more into the growing need. So the fourth one is the love and connection. The fifth one is growing. Okay, the need for growth, that is development, that is life. So how do you encourage them to grow? How much do you support them in growing? And the sixth one is the contribution, the need for contribution. They love to help. Children generally love to help. So if you encourage them to help and create conditions for them to help you to do the dishes, to help with the cleaning, to help with washing, to help with anything that they would be really needed, but not judgmentally needed, like, oh, please help me because you never help me. No, really ask for help, and they would then develop their empathy, that emotional intelligence we talked earlier.